Are you ready to take your podcast to the next level? Then look no further than NAST Studios, located in Seattle's Pioneer Square. Hi, I'm Blake. I'm the owner, in-house producer, and editor. We've got 3 cameras to capture every moment and can host up to 8 mics, ensuring your podcast looks and sounds professional. We've got affordable pricing for podcasters at all levels. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.naststudios.com. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, I'm with my neighbor, sort of. This guest owns a studio in the basement of the English building called Orbit Audio. They also have a studio outside of this building as well. They've been in multiple bands throughout the years, from the Three Blind Mice, which transformed into the Mises, and then Alien Crime Syndicate, correct?
That's right.
This guy's a total badass. He's a cancer survivor.
Yes.
I love the leather
That's
jacket.
true.
And I was just lucky enough to randomly run into you outside of the building, like right when I moved in here. But from our phone call yesterday, it seems like you're not here that often. So
Right.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like the...
Well, Blake, thanks for having me.
Of course.
This is
Joe
super
Reineke,
cool.
by the way, everyone.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Dude, so cool to be with you today.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is awesome. I love this spot. And
Thank you.
You're so generous to invite me on your program.
Of course. And we did this like last second too. It was like within 24 hours.
I know.
And that's kind of the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Can you cuss on this?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
All right, I won't cuss then. I'll let you do it.
So let's start
quickly.
Cool. Let's start with your background. Just a quick recap. You're originally from, is it Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in St. Louis and then my family moved to a farm outside of Chicago.
Okay.
In Morris, Illinois, outside of that. And I grew up in the middle of kind of cornfields and soybean fields. And then when I was in 6th grade, they moved to North Florida, Jacksonville, and I stayed there until after I was in high school, and then moved to San Francisco.
So is Florida like the most you remember then out of your childhood, that area, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's, let me say that like the first 40 years of childhood is the hardest,
I love that. So did you have any siblings? Like what?
Yeah, I had two older brothers. I was the youngest, so I had 2 older brothers and a older stepsister, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were they into like music at all?
No, really. I mean, like my brother took me to like my first concerts because I couldn't drive and stuff like that, and like but I quickly I started. I learned how to play music actually in Illinois.
Okay.
I started on saxophone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then that was not cool at all. Yeah, sorry, Scarrett. Yeah.
I did clarinet, so I kind of feel a little bit.
Yeah, and then my older sister had left a guitar upstairs, and I still have that to this day.
Nice.
But it was a little classical guitar, Goya, and I started learning songs and chords on it. And then when we moved to Florida, we moved to a place called Orange Park, and right across the ditch from where our backyards, in a backyard, there was a ditch in between our backyards, and this gal, her name was Terry Farrington, and I hated her fucking brother, still do to this day.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. But she taught me how to play guitar. So I heard her playing, and I was like, "Oh my God, what is that?" And they were like, like, I don't know, songs of the day that, you know what I mean? And I was like, "Oh God, show me." So I immediately walked over there. You had to walk around the block, and walked into her backyard. It's like, I live over there. You have to show me how to play guitar because learning songs.
Yeah.
And then I started learning these songs, and I was just like, that was it. I was toast, and here I am today.
And that's your main thing. Like, you're a guitarist.
I am, and a singer.
And singer.
Yeah.
So, because you've these bands you were like the front man of these bands, would you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I had the impression that you were like mainly like a guitarist, and I was gonna ask like,
No,
how
I
does
was
a
always the
guitar?
songwriter
Okay,
in the bands.
got it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and so just kind of by default, like nobody else knew how to play write
Yeah.
songs, so I wrote all these like
How'd you learn how to write songs? Also,
I
lower your
don't
mic
even
just a little bit if you
what's
can.
that?
Push the mic down just a
Oh, okay.
tad,
Yeah. I
a
don't
little bit
even
more.
know how I like just by listening to music
Cool.
and like, putting things together and, things that sounded fun and stuff like that. So, and now I have a band, Society of the Silver Cross with my wife Karen, and it's really
Dang,
super cool, man.
that's cool. So like,
Yeah.
how did you come up with these like names, like the Three Blind Mice, the
Oh, that
Mises? I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
that's
I don't know. I
like
mean, that was just sort of a band in high school, basically.
okay.
Yeah, but Society of the Silver Cross. So I did a like a little solo trip in Europe with Karen.
Okay.
She plays the harmonium and I play the 12 string.
Wait, what is a harmonium?
A harmonium it's sort of like a pump organ, but you pump it with one hand and then play with the other.
Oh wow.
It's used in a lot of like spiritual ceremonies for like
Okay.
Hindu and that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, so anyway, so it's really, really it's got a kind of haunting sort of vibe to it. And anyway, so we went and we did a bunch of shows I say a bunch, it was like, I don't know, maybe 7 or so in Europe. And we called it a tourcation because it really wasn't a tour and it really wasn't a vacation. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
sort of like
In between.
both. So
Yeah.
we called it,
I've done
I
that
just
before,
called it a
sure. Yeah.
tourcation. And so we went and we were playing in Amsterdam. We had a day off and we went to the Rijksmuseum and we saw this painting there, and it was like of this stoic gentleman, and he looked like friggin' like I don't know, like this warrior is like, and half like Santa Claus, right?
Okay.
And it was like, wow, check this out. And then underneath the painting, it had the name of it. And it says
Okay.
Society of the Silver Cross
Oh.
underneath that and the painting. And it was like the Dutch medics of the 16th century or something like that, right? So they're equivalent to like the Red Cross
Okay, that
is.
makes
Yeah.
okay.
And so our music has a kind of a healing quality to it as well. So we thought about it and like, God, would people think it's like religious? And it's definitely not, I'm like, oh, fuck them. That's a cool name. We're going to use it. It's actually has some meaning. It's just like some words we put together.
Is it
So.
just you two or how many people?
Yeah, no, it's a full band.
Okay.
We were a 5-piece when we toured in Mexico, but we're in a 4-piece now because
Yeah.
one of Karen is actually playing some of the bass stuff
Got
too.
it. How many people does it take to make up a society? You know what I mean?
Right, right. I mean, I guess you could start with one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a full band. It's drums and
Okay.
we play these kind of interesting instruments like the Shahi Baja and Mellotron, and Karen plays the harmonium and triggers some samples, but none of the music is at least the samples aren't rhythmic based, so we're not playing to a click or anything like that. So I like we did that a little bit in ACS and in Crime Syndicate, and it was cool,
Yeah.
just like, wow, where did all those background vocals come from?
Yeah.
Like right when they were supposed to. But it always felt like I had to wait. We had, our drummer's Nabil Ayers, and he's like really still a good friend of mine, super awesome dude. But even like we had to use the click and didn't use the click. We're one of the first bands that were doing that at the time. But the thing is like, you'd be playing to a room full of people, and the drummer Nabil would be counting off the song, and I'll be like, that thing is slow, man. You know what I mean? So like, I felt always, and I think we discussed it as a band too. It's like, I always felt like the click really kind of, I couldn't run the show as a front man, right? I'd always have to wait for the drummer to
'Cause you were following
click it
something.
off. You
Okay.
know what I mean? And I couldn't just like, boom, and start the song. So we ditched it, and to this day,
Yeah.
society doesn't do that either because we could easily get away with it, and a lot of people do, and
Does that
run
mean you like
tracks
change
and
it
all
up
this stuff.
when you're
But like, it's like I feel like I like more organic experiences
right?
with bands instead of ones that are like, I don't know if any of this is live at all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even those vocals,
Mm-hmm.
like it feels sort of low quality when people do that to me, and it just might be my producer or engineer ears or stuff like that. Like, that dude ain't playing guitar. There ain't no, I played guitar my whole life. That dude ain't playing guitar at all.
Yeah.
Like those things aren't coming out of his hands. There ain't no way that's happening.
Some of the bands
Yeah.
I've had on the show, they kind of say like when they're performing live, it kind of changes a little bit versus like what the studio album's supposed to sound like,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, of
So that's
course. Yeah,
like,
yeah, your
but that's the
live
more,
versions
yeah, that's
and
the
things.
live like organic version, I guess.
Uh-huh.
You kind of lose that with the.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. So
Anyway, so a little bit about the music and stuff.
yeah, that's awesome. And is that a band that started in Seattle?
Which one?
Your latest one, the
Society? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I've been in Seattle since '99.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
But you've had that's from listening to your interview, your previous interviews. It was cool to see that like even though you moved to Seattle in '99, you've spent time in Seattle before.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
So the Mises were originally signed to Empty Records, which was out of Seattle, and Empty had a kind of arm of the label that had this gal Julianne Anderson, super awesome person, and she booked the band.
mm,
So we were from San Francisco, but we'd play up here a lot, and we'd play with a lot of and tour with a lot of Seattle bands like
mm,
the Fastbacks and the Super Suckers and Gas Huffer and a lot of those kind of seminal '90s Seattle bands,
yeah,
and so everybody thought we were from Seattle. We
yeah.
had such a big kind of um network of friends here and things like that, even though we were doing well in San Francisco and stuff like that, but
Mm.
yeah.
Did you want
um,
to be from Seattle ever, or were you kind of just like,
I
no,
don't
this is
know.
just a tour
I didn't
spot?
really care about that. I wasn't
Yeah.
all up in that business,
Okay.
like the grunge movement, even though I probably got signed out of that,
Yeah.
um, riding on the coattails of a flannel shirt somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
you know, eh,
So what do you think has
whatever.
changed? Like, do you currently still work with bands,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
people like to say that that time when Nirvana and all those guys were performing was like the golden
Mm-hmm.
era of bands, but maybe there's just so much more content and bands being put out now. Do you think like the bands you're working with are like, if shown in the right light, can compete with like a Nirvana or whoever, or what do you think?
I don't know. I think uh, I know what you're trying to ask, but it's almost like, oh, let me just measure my journey to somebody else's.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's trying to measure up to everything is exhausting, I
Mm.
think. So everyone's going to carve out their own lane and do their own thing. And I feel like, as long as you're authentic, I, I think it's sustainable, at
Mm.
least.
But
But
how sustainable? You know what I mean? Because like you work with bands, I work with bands, I work with artists. A lot of my friends are artists, and like the starving artist thing is such a real thing, especially in
it's a bunch
Seattle,
of
right?
bullshit though too, man.
What?
It's like, oh, you got to be starving to be an
You don't
artist.
have to
Like,
be,
no,
but
you don't. I mean, like a lot of people are that are artists. Well, let me rephrase this. Some people that are artists really latch on to this thing. Like, I must, I must be, you know, broke and all this kind of
mm,
stuff. And I don't know, man. Like the older I get, and think about it, it's just like it is some bullshit you just made up in your head, and people had like kind of parroted it. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's a thing. Like, I don't know if I subscribe to it. Like, I think that art in its purest form comes from somebody being authentic to themselves, and whatever that looks like. And I don't care, how many, dollars you gathered in your bank account.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. Art is art. So
Right.
these are kind of two buckets that you're talking about, I think.
Well, when I'm saying starving artist now, I mean like in the literal sense that like Seattle's so expensive to like
It
live in.
is,
Like,
there ain't no doubt about it. Seattle, it's like,
do you think you can be
the
in?
rents are too high. Yeah.
But
I love that dude. I don't know who that is,
but
but I swear.
do you think artists can live in Seattle just by being an artist? And if
I
so,
think
how?
so.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Everybody's got to hustle. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
people I know that like do music have two or three things that they do.
Yeah.
It's just not one thing. Like, oh, I'm gonna like play at the Blue Moon and the Sea Monster all the time, and
Mm.
hope to make a living off of that. Normally like they teach some kind of music or
Mm.
doing other things. There's another kind of for lack of a better word, hustle in their life
Yeah.
than just playing music, and I think that's what, and also I think that's what helps, uh, someone to be kind of well-rounded, because they have
Mm.
different interests than just, you know, only being an artist.
But has that changed? Like, have when you were able to tour with all these different bands, did you have another job at all, or did you
I didn't. Well,
solely?
I mean, it was a little different then because, well, at first I was touring, for the first like, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. I was touring and we had no support from any
Mm.
a label, like meaning that we didn't have tour support, right?
Mm.
So they wouldn't give you any money to go out on the road, but you could play this. But we, like whatever, we're sleeping on, in people's apartments we didn't know on their floor
Mm.
and, all this and that. And like, you know, uh, getting 4 7-layer burritos. That was our meal for the day,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff. And like, whatever,
Yeah.
like, it's okay,
Yeah.
and then we got signed, and then there was some tour support, so we could upgrade to a Motel 6
Mm.
and have a real per diem a day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we could go to Denny's and stuff or
Mm.
something like that and sit down and eat. But it wasn't um like this luxurious sort of thing that but it
Mm.
felt like we had a little bit more like support under us that we could um do longer trips and
Mm.
that kind of stuff.
But do you ever
Yeah.
have like a what's your like last day job? Do you like remember?
Well, um, I was let's see, um, in between tours when in Alien Crime Syndicate, I had before I opened the studio,
Mhm.
I was pressure washing
Okay.
apartment building sidewalks in
Okay.
Renton in the cold ass winter, and that sucked. That lasted for about 6 days, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was cutting fleece right down the street at like where the Starbucks is.
Cutting
The
fleece like sheep?
fleece, no, like
No.
sheets of fabric,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was like fleece for old ladies
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And man, always had like the job of the week. Like
Okay.
probably the only job I had the longest was I was working in the printing industry when I moved to California first. But yeah, man, I had all these like
Huh.
hilarious jobs. I had this job. Um, it was at Picture Perfect, and Picture Perfect was a company that went around to high schools, and we took their photo IDs for the high schools, and this
Okay.
was in the Bay Area,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so like we'd have the camera set up and whatever. The students would line up and then come in. We snap their photo and like next. You know what I mean? Um, and after a couple of weeks, they were like, "I don't think you're kind of cut out for this job."
So like you're a producer now. Would you
Oh yeah.
always say you were a producer because you're like writing songs and
Well, yeah.
everything?
I mean, it started as like, "Hey, how long you been producing?" Like, and it's like, where do you want to start the clock at? You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like professionally in this studio or before, like with my project? Because, like, I think the art of producing is the art of like also like arrangement and songwriting
Mm.
and understanding kick and snare patterns, and you know how to give songs tension and release and impact and surprises and these kind of things.
Hmm.
There's a lot of, just throwing out a couple different things,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
all that kind of begins with playing music with others and friends, and just like figuring out like your your songs and stuff like that, and then helping other people do that, and like, oh, like that. And um we work with a um this produce the Mises worked with this producer named Gil Norton,
Mm.
and Gil did like three of the Pixies records and a bunch of like pretty, Echo and the Bunnymen's Ocean Rain, and did all this like, seminal like records and
Hmm.
things like that. And he was like, I learned a lot of my production chops from him, and like arrangements and moving stuff around, and really digging into stuff. And then, kind of leaned on, for me as a producer, leaned a lot harder on the songwriting aspect
Yeah.
of it than being an engineer, because I wasn't really that great of an engineer when I started.
Hmm.
Like, who is really,
Yeah.
like everybody sucks when they start,
Well,
really,
engineering is
like,
pretty technical, to be honest.
huh?
I feel
Uh,
like engineering is
Yeah,
pretty technical. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
but what I say to we have a school now, called Seattle Recording Arts. Huge plug.
Hell yeah! And is
Yeah,
that
so
is that solely in
yeah, we do.
orbit?
We have a couple of courses, and one's online through
Hmm.
Zoom as a software
Yeah, yeah.
training, and the other is hands-on in the studio at Orbit. But but what I tell our students is like, we all start at the same place, and that's the starting line,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like nobody was good when they started, like everybody had to learn and
Mhm.
learn. They learn how they learn. You know what I mean? Like some people were taught traditionally with, you know, like apprenticeships with other people, or just kind of put in the fire. And then I just sort of like, I kind of had a little of both,
Mhm.
and just paid attention a lot and was really curious.
Mhm.
And you know didn't make amazing sounding records when I started, and nobody really does, and
Yeah.
nobody, but like old friend of mine, Larry Crane, he has a magazine. He's got a studio in Portland, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and he's got a really famous magazine now called Tape Op, right?
Okay.
And he's a wonderful dude. Shouts to you, Lair.
Heck yeah.
Anyway, we were hanging in San Francisco at this. We were on this panel or something like that
Mhm.
together, um, and we were just kind of jawing about stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, man, the reason people come to me is like I've got like 20 years of mistakes under my belt." And that means
Yeah.
20 years of mistakes I won't be making on your record.
Yeah.
And sort of adopted that a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that.
and because it's true, because we learn by our mistakes. We learn about like what not to do. I mean, you have this amazing podcast joint here,
Yeah.
right?
I've made a ton of mistakes.
I know. Well, and then yeah, of course,
Yeah.
right? And you've learned from every single one of them, I bet,
Yeah.
and
100%.
you know what I mean? You even have this fancy foot switcher that
Hell
switches the
yeah.
camera. Go do it. Ready?
Yeah, before I used to do a like a keyboard in my lap, and I was
Oh,
like that
cool.
was like so distracting though, so now it's
Uh,
nicer to have this, and it's becoming like part of me now, so it's pretty cool.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so has Orbit always been in this basement?
It has. Well, I mean, I started it in in our practice room in Oakland, and I absolutely had no idea what I was doing. But
Mm.
and then I moved it into flats with my roommates, and then into a practice room in LA, and I lived there for a year and a half, and then up to here I was making records in a bedroom in the I almost said West Oakland, West Seattle, and 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 then I opened up Orbit with help of Duff McKagan
Mm.
from Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, really?
Yeah,
What the
yeah.
heck?
And so Duff had like this was this crazy ass story. So I mean, who could have thought of it? So this
That's crazy.
right.
Yeah.
So I was at um so Duff at ACS. All right, let me just back up a little bit. So Alien Crime Syndicate, we were sort of like through with some of our touring cycles
Mm.
for our last record. And a couple of the other members, Jeff and Mike Squires, were somehow knew Duff or something like that, and started playing in his side project. Yeah,
Mm,
and we were still like buddies and da da da. And then one time I was at Christmas dinner with in some restaurant with Duff and the guys, and I can't remember who else was there, but um Duff was like, "Hey, man," because he knew who I was, and he was like, you know, because he knew I had a studio over in West Seattle um in the basement of the house that we were living in,
mm,
and he was like, man, I've got a board, and he had a big Trident 80B and tape machine,
mm.
big Studer 2-inch, right? He's like, I got a board and a tape machine in LA. Um, dude, you can use it or whatever.
That's craziness.
That's his exact quote. You could use it or whatever. So I was literally like, okay, great. I drove down to LA like the next day or something in a van and picked that shit up, and
Oh my
then
gosh.
in the same in literally in the same week, Mike Squires, who's still one of my best buds, was friends. He worked at a coffee cart too on Broadway,
Okay.
and one of his clients came up and it was regulars and said, um, said to Mike that he had to give up his space because
Mm,
he, one reason or another, I forget what it was, or you know, and Squire's like, I kind of know a dude that's interested,
dang.
because I had the board and the tape
Yeah, yeah,
machine just in the garage, or I think might have still been in the back of the van,
yeah,
parked like, backed up into the like back of the house or something.
yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with it really. I didn't really have a plan,
Mm.
really. And
Wait, how big was
this
this
is
board? Was this one of
huh?
those? Was this one of those big boards, or
Yeah,
like?
yeah, full format thing. I mean, we had all the seats out and it would just barely fit in
Oh
the
my
van,
gosh.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
It was big and like, I don't know, whatever, 10 feet or something, the length of it. But and then, so that was Orbit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went down here and I never left them alone. I was like calling them, I got the money, ready to go, got
Yeah,
the money, ready to go. Let's do this. Let's do this. And I just bugged the crap out of them until they said yes.
yeah.
So I was subleasing down there. And then I ended up taking over the whole space
Mm.
a few years later when like they had a voiceover business that just
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it wasn't the
Dang.
right time for them or something like that. Anyway, so I ended up taking over the whole space. But yeah, Duff helped me start it.
Wow.
That's his only involvement
Yeah.
in the studio. He didn't help me like um with any
Like electrical setup or anything.
well with like he wasn't an investor,
Right. Got it.
other than a
Right.
rock and roll angel,
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But and then I ended up like through studio proceeds purchasing the board from him,
Nice. Yeah.
which was really cool. It
You
was
know who
really
I
cool. And
know that
that's the
you
story.
That's amazing. I love that
Yeah.
story. I know Don Robertson. I
Oh,
met him through
how do you know
I
Don?
met him through, do you know who Little Hurt is? Or the
Uh-uh.
band he was in it before that. That's his solo project. Before that he was in this band called the Mowgli's. No? So
No, Don
basically
used to manage me.
that's great cuz that's how I
Yes.
met one of
Yes.
basically Little Hurt is basically one of Don's people that he manages.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I met Don randomly outside of was it El Corazon? The
Oh yeah, and
Funhouse right
so,
there?
yeah,
Like
sounds about
2 years
right.
ago now or something?
That's
Yeah,
his jam.
that's wild.
Yeah, yeah. Don and I have a long history. Actually, when I moved to LA first after San Francisco,
Mm,
I was living in Don's apartment.
wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Dang. That's why you just gotta be
And
nice
with
to people and connect.
God,
It's
what's his
crazy.
name? Fuck, I forget his name. Oh my God, buddy, I forgot your name. Anyway, so Les.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, with Les and Don.
dang.
I was sleeping on the couch and until I got a spot. Yeah.
Dang.
But Don got me a pretty kick-ass record deal, and
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So how did you go about building up Orbit Audio to what it is today?
It's one brick at a time, and that was it. You know
Mm,
what I mean? I just saved and did records and records, and then bought a little piece of something. Bought a
mm,
new microphone and this and that. And just it wasn't all at once.
yeah.
It was really one little bit at a time, and just like an unstoppable dream. You know.
did you like, was it first just like kind of like word of mouth, would you say?
Yeah, at
Or
first because I had, was pretty active in the scene and was in a,
yeah.
pretty happening band around town, and
Mm.
so reasonably happening,
And the saloon's like right there, right? Did
The
you ever
what?
the Central Saloon's like right there
Yeah.
and bands perform there. Like did you ever like
Dude,
connection?
I I must have got 3 or 4 gigs from bands just loading in, and I would be on this there was a little thing. I used to smoke, and I don't
Yeah.
anymore, but, I'd go out on the back steps and smoke, and I'd see bands lugging in. There's like, "Hey, hey, what's up? Yo, I got a studio over here," like, and go talk to him, or like I had a intern that was working with me. It was
Yeah.
like, "Run down to the Central and start talking to people," and like he'd give out business cards or whatever. And we would
Wow.
just like, bands needed a place to record, and our spot was cool, and
Yeah.
like they happened to be there right at the time, and we'd like, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say it happened all the time, but like, we've been there 20 years, so I
Mm.
guess it's not all the time if it happened only 3 times, but it's better than none.
For sure.
It was kind of cool. I forget who it was who came in and did it now, but it was just the idea of it is just sort of like, oh yeah, I'm poaching people right off of the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've only been here since August. You've been
Uh-huh.
here for right almost two decades.
I have,
What is
yeah.
some like fun facts about this specific area of Pioneer Square?
There's not any fun facts about Pioneer Square.
Okay.
Certainly the food has changed, and but like it's, there's a, and there's like this weird like um duality of Pioneer Square. It's
Mm.
like, the tech bros and businessmen and women, um, and the people that are struggling really hard in life.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And he's just like, fuck, man, it's hard to, it's just, uh, you know, it's hard to square that in my mind because, you know,
Has it been like a
it's hard.
steady decline, like since you've moved in here, or has it been ups and downs, or?
I don't quite really remember. It has, like, in the last, like, 10 years, it's definitely, like, changed a lot
Hmm.
that way,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure why, but, um, other people are much smarter at the reasons why
Yeah.
there's, but, like, you go to any major city,
Mm.
Los Angeles, dude, it it's the same thing,
Mm.
Santa Cruz, same thing.
Mm.
San Francisco, oh, yeah, exactly the same, like,
Yeah.
um, and I think all cities change, and everything does all the time,
Mm.
Like even our bodies, like we get like, I don't know, 7 billion new cells a day or something like that. Something so
There's a fun fact
crazy.
right there.
Yeah, that's a fun fact about Pioneer Square, but
Oh my
we only
gosh.
do it in Pioneer Square, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So then when did you open, remind me the name of your super cool ass studio you have in.
Oh, the new one?
Yes.
Oh, Temple of the Trees. And this place is crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Tell the backstory of how that came to be.
well, we built the studio from the ground up, and we had to chop down a bunch of trees on the property to build it. And we ended up saving the trees and hiring a milling service and using all the not everyone, but most of the trees on the inside for the inside. It's called cladding, but
Mm.
it's like maybe like called it inside acoustical treatments and things like that.
Mm.
And yeah, it's cool. Like over 20-foot live room ceilings, and it's like you listen
Dang.
to that like bam, like whoa, drums and like things just sound crazy good in there.
That's
So
awesome.
easy to get a good sound in there.
And what was the process behind like wanting to open maybe like a second studio?
Well, it was the start of COVID.
Okay.
Right? And the world in Seattle was crazy. We didn't know
Yeah.
like even if Orbit would, like, I
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
And it was, It actually wasn't my idea.
Hmm.
You knows whose it was?
Duff McKagan.
No. Good choice though. It was my wife,
Oh wow.
Karen.
Wow.
She's like, let's build a studio back here,
Dang.
And so Blake, I always say, always listen to your wife. Always listen to your wife.
Dang.
Yeah.
So that's where you guys both, I'm guessing, if you were to record more stuff, that's where you record then.
Yeah. We did the latest Society of the Silver Cross record there. It's going to come out in May.
And what keeps you active in making music?
Dude, like, I don't even know, but like it's just like kind of this unstoppable thing that like, I need to write songs and not need. I don't like that word need as much as like maybe a calling is a
Okay.
better word for it,
Yeah.
because it's like it's more than a need, because a need is like I need something from you. You know what I mean? It's like, a calling comes from inside, I feel like.
Would that like, and you could tear this apart, but would that mean like you're like a true artist in the sense where like you need to make, so we're using the word need, but like let's just say that need to make music to feel like alive versus like maybe there's some artists that make it for the money, or how would you break that down?
I don't know what anybody else's journey looks like,
Okay, fair enough.
but I think there's some people that, for me, and I don't even want to say some people, because I don't know what anybody else does. You know what I mean? But for me, I feel like it is a calling that I have this, these ideas and musical ideas, and, um, I don't like songs that, the older I get, or really like think about the songs as like they don't really even come from me, but they come through me, right? So I have to feel like I'm like a conduit for what, you know what I mean? Like, and it's been said in a lot of different ways, like, but like we have like these, you know, other people have said this, and and I certainly have in different ways, but like, it's um, like right now in the air, yeah.
Yeah, it's electric.
No, check it out. Right now, I mean, we can't hear it,
Yeah.
but in the air, there might be 50 songs playing, right? All you got to do is turn on a radio and flip the dial,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And artists have the same thing. They just need to tune into the right, whatever frequency they vibrate at, yeah, or whatever frequency we have, or access to. We'll tune our radio station to that, and it's based a little bit on musical conditioning and other things and other factors like that. But that's essentially how it is. And then like, the music comes through, like, writing a song. It's like, oh, driving down in the shower, whatever, da 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 da. Oh, that's a cool little jam. Let me, try to save it somehow, or like,
Yeah.
there's this really interesting story, like, songs are like, and ideas are normally like gone within like, let's just say 60 seconds or less, right? So they have to be captured or something, or else they're kind of like, I say this to our students in school too, that like, you ever been to a sushi buffet?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you sit at the table and the stuff just kind of rolls by, and you just grab it and you put it on your plate, right?
Conveyor belt sushi.
Yeah. And then sometimes you're like, you watch it go by and like, man, and it just gets passed on to the next table. And so songs are like that too. If they're not captured, and if you don't put them on your plate, so to speak, right? They just get passed off to the next guy that's tuned into that radio station. You know what I mean? With that vibration, actually, the songs don't really, we like have, performing royalty organizations, or, PROs, or like the, BMI and ASCAP, whatever that stuff. But they don't, I think that like, they don't really you know, belong to us, we have to be just good stewards of them.
Right. It's
You know
like,
what I mean? Like we have to take care of them and
yeah,
nurture them and or they go like on the sushi buffet
yeah.
and are passed off to the next person, you
Right.
know?
It's like the this is a little bit out there, but you know, like how like every culture has their version of like maybe like a certain dragon or a monster or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
like from all different parts of like the world. Like
Okay.
this this country might have this depiction of a sea monster, and then Ireland might have or Scotland might have their own depiction of a sea monster. Like people are tuning into that same wavelength just in different areas. So I like that, which relates back to the idea of like, which I've heard before too, that like you might own the song in the sense that you actually were the first one to put it down on paper. But yeah, if you weren't gonna do it, that's the perfect now. I like the sushi. That's like the perfect way to say it.
Almost like it
Yeah.
paints a picture.
As a producer, what are your opinions of the Seattle music scene currently? You're someone who's been part of the music scene for 20 years. You're still working with artists today. What are some things that you feel like artists are doing well? What are some things that artists aren't doing well? Also, with that as well, what are some trends that you're currently seeing in music, if you are seeing trends?
Well, I mean, man, to be honest, my slice of what's happening is so razor thin.
Hmm.
I'm probably not. I can only tell you about my experience,
Hmm.
and I don't know really what's going on out there. I listened to, I went through. There's yeah, I don't know what's going on out there, man. But like there's some gems out there, some people that write really beautiful songs
Yeah.
and things like that. I love that about Seattle and I love like, how supportive it is
Hmm.
in places and it's also sometimes like uh hard to get traction
Hmm.
too here, on things. And universe works in crazy ways. I don't understand it, but my little slice of it is like there are some people writing really, really authentic, excellent music in
Hmm.
Seattle right now. And it doesn't, I don't think it has a defined sound right now. I think there's a lot of like pockets of things and people kind of putting things together and which is really, really awesome. And also we have an amazing radio station here, KXP,
Hmm.
which is like arguably one of the best in the country or
Yeah.
and of the world for like what it is. Left no non-com left of the dial thing, like some amazing DJs and like do I connect with everything? No, like
Hmm.
you're not supposed to,
Right.
but like they playing some cool stuff, you know, and and I don't know. I, re- it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, this, with like, oh yeah, my conclusion is this, like,
Yeah. But are you like the at this point? How do younger people find you? Are you like kind of just like that sorcerer in the woods now in your in your studio
right,
that
yeah,
people are like, I've
yeah.
heard
I mean,
whispers of this,
yeah, it's
or
they find me like like I don't know, like the internet,
on this
that's anybody.
podcast? That's where they
Yeah,
find you.
I know. Yeah, I know. We got, yeah, we at Orbit. I mean, like I mentioned to you on the phone the other
Mhm,
day, is like, um, early on, I did a record for Dre 3000,
mhm,
from Outkast for it's a collab with Jay Z, and then we ended up doing the Macklemore parts of the heist,
mhm,
and pretty big part of it, and um then we got known as the rap studio. Oh yeah, you guys are the rap studio. And like we've always just been a music studio. You
mhm,
know what I mean? It's like, no, we're not the rap studio. We're a music studio
mhm.
and we help people with their art and help people with their music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes people get confused. They get really confused about, genre specific things and like, oh, you just do this or you just do that. Like, we have to know about what's happening and the latest trends and things like that and how to kind of manipulate like a lot of it's just manipulating vocals and
Mm.
stacking in vocal production and things. But I'm all over the place. But yeah, the Seattle scene is like um I don't know, man. This is what it is, right?
Okay.
It's this like big pot of soup
Okay.
with a lot of spices in it. You're like, wow, there's all kinds of different flavors in this bucket of soup.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, but it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But some people don't like spice. So
Um, Go to Tacoma then.
fair enough. There we
Okay.
go. Well, I'm
All right.
happy we were able to finally do this.
Yeah.
Like I
Likewise.
said, I ran into maybe in like August, right?
Mhm.
It's been a
Yeah, it was
minute.
like in the summer, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been in the back of my mind, and my goal now is to like start connecting with more people in the community in
Yeah.
this area.
Yeah.
I just got asked to like renew my lease here, so I'm excited to start actually planting roots in this area. And I'm hoping to collaborate with you down the road and like
Yeah.
figure out ways we can uplift our community.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Elevate it.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm digging it.
100%.
Yeah.
So with that, where can people find you? Where can people book you if they want to book with you, et cetera, et cetera?
I mean, our website, Orbit Audio rocks, or just the email orbitaudio@gmail. That goes right to me,
Cool.
And Temple of the Trees Studio, Orbit Audio. I'm just plugging stuff right now. Seattle Recording Arts for music
yeah.
production training,
Yeah.
and our band Society of the Silver Cross. See you later.
Project coming out in
Yeah.
May.
Yeah.
This has been the NAST podcast with,
Joe Reineke.
and we did it.